You're listening to Radio Cosmos.
All night long.
Bravo!
My compliments, little lady.
Commercial! Break for 30 seconds.
You're now listening to BaaD Radio.
Hello and welcome to BaaD Radio. BaaD stands for Business at a Distance. This is a show about local businesses and business networking. We are here in the News Radio WFLA studios from 11 a.m. to noon every Sunday. I am your host, and before we go into introductions, I want to give a huge shout out to one of our sponsors, Ground Up Property Services. The Florida heat is here, so now's the time to get your irrigation service by Ground Up Property Services. Don't wait for your grass to turn brown and die. Just don't do it, because then you got to pay for sod and get it all fixed. Just call Ground Up Property Services today at 407-468-4295 or visit groundupinc.net. Very excited to introduce our guest today. His name is Dash, and he is an author and a graphic artist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So Dash and I, our paths kind of mixed a little bit, but we didn't make that connection until this past couple of months.
Right. Yeah, this feels like it's been kind of a long time coming. I think at first there was just a little bit of craziness in the air. Our lives just were madhouses at that point.
Right.
But,
Do you live in the Winter Springs area?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I said, I think that we just sort of we're close, but not quite there.
Yeah,
but
we were within the vicinity, and we had a mutual connection. So.
Well, you're here now,
I am.
so and I wanted to just really talk about your book.
Sure.
We've had one or two other authors on the show before. One was Courtney Anderson, and she wrote a book called Sober Vibes. And then we had an author named Ryan Reese who wrote a fiction book called what was it called? It was A Larger Loss.
Okay.
And so you'll be my third author
Awesome.
that's on. So tell us about your book.
Yeah, absolutely. So my book is called On Green, and it's actually a fiction story about a guy named Dustin Cameron who gets involved in a street racing club. Now, how he gets there, he gets involved with one of the richest men in New York City, and he, after he gets involved, things get really complicated because the man who pulled him into the street racing club, his name's Bob Bellhorn. His wife Lydia starts taking interest in Dustin, so the story gets very spicy and scandalous. Yeah, so it's not just cars and street racing. There's a very deep-rooted, central story involving these characters.
Right. So what inspired you to write a book?
Years ago, I was sitting on my PlayStation, and I was playing a street racing game called Midnight Club.
I love it.
Yeah, this is how it started. And I was sitting there playing this game, and I just had this idea. I'm like, what is life like for this guy in this car who you don't know anything about? It's just a silhouette of a person inside this vehicle. I'm like, wondering what life is like for this person, and this fictional person who I don't know. So that's where the seed was planted.
Okay, I really love that story because you're like, okay, let's create.
Yeah, no, it was
world.
100%. It was all rooted from there, and that was probably back, I would say 2010, 2012. It was a while ago. So the story was really seeded itself and germinated for quite a while and formed itself, in my head over those years, really refining the story, because when I actually sat down and wrote it, it flowed really well because I had all that time.
I have so many questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have your idea. Okay, did you start just recording yourself as you were inspired by something, or did you sit down and type it out or handwrite it, or because I have things that pop in my head, because I told you before the show started is that I'm writing a book called Wine for Breakfast, but I when I'm getting ready in the morning or I'm doing this, I'm like, ooh, I need to write about that, but then I forget when I go to sit down to write. So how did you organize everything in your head? Is that hard? Sorry.
No. I didn't do any outlining, believe it or not. I didn't do any pre-scripting with On Green. On Green, like I said, it sort of just boiled and stewed in my head for all those years, and I was able to just spit it out. As soon as I sat down and wrote it, it just flowed. I mean, there were moments where I had to really think about, I had the beats of the story already planned, the beginning, the middle, the end, the climax, the action, all that stuff. But some of the in between stuff I just let happen organically. So, I'm sitting there night after night. Some nights I wouldn't get anything written. I would just sit there and stare at the screen. nothing would come out. I'd go through writer's block, but then there were some nights where I would sit down and it was just one chapter after another, just blasting them out.
That's like fascinating. And so how did you come up with your characters and their characters' names?
Yeah. So the lead character, Dustin Cameron.
Well, obviously he's the guy that was driving the car.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Lead character, Dustin Cameron, actually, my fun fact, I was adopted. And when I found out that my original name was actually going to be Dustin.
Okay.
So I held on to that. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. It's a good name.
Yeah.
It's a strong name.
Yeah. I was like, that's a cool name. So I held on to that. And then the last name Cameron actually comes from my adopted father's, his side of the family.
Okay.
Yeah. We have Camerons on that side. So I just drew that name. It's a very Southern sounding name because Dustin's from Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. He's living and working in New York City in the first book, but he's actually a Florida native. He's a transplant.
Oh, okay. So is that where the book is based in New York? I heard you mention
book one.
that.
Yeah,
Right.
book one is in New York. Book two is actually I'm bringing it back here to Sanford, Florida.
Nice.
Yep, Sanford's getting put on the map.
I love that. Okay, so that's the main character, and what about the side characters?
So-
Like, you had to give them personality.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
had to, like, I mean, it's like creating a person out of thin air.
It is.
Fascinating.
It is. Bob and Lydia were they were just created. I didn't really have anything that was that they were inspired by. There was an elderly couple at a church growing up that we went to whose last name was Bellhorn, and I just kind of randomly remembered that. I was like, okay, that's a cool sounding last name. I'm like, and it kind of sounds like it's like a rich person's last name,
Right.
Bellhorn. That's a nice wealthy sounding name. So
Right.
I ascribed Bellhorn to Bob and Lydia. Now, originally Bob and Lydia, when I was kind of like putting the characters together and really formulating who they were. Initially, they were closer in age to Dustin, but I decided to actually go a little bit more extreme and put Bob. Bob is the oldest. He's like I don't really tell his age, but he's right around 69, 70, right around there. Lydia is 49, and she turns 50 in the book.
Right.
So there's
So
all these
she's-
generational representations, and then when you're getting to the romance part, it makes it even like, ooh,
She's
what
like
is
cougar
this?
cupcake,
Yep,
huh?
It's 100%. It's 100% a cougar situation going on.
That's how old I am. Am I officially cougar age?
You know what? That's on you.
I don't know. I just no. Anyway, so it's just funny when people talk about they're a little bit older. They're like 49, 50. I'm like, like knife to the heart. But
I didn't honestly think that the romance was even going to be all that like interesting if I had kept her like around this. I just don't think it would. It definitely, I think, increased the popularity of this romance hook within my audience because of the fact that there's an age gap.
Well, the thing I find so this is I love how people come up with names, and so many times when I talk to authors that they're from things that they've seen, or I mean, even like my favorite author is obviously J.K. Rowling, because I've talked about her a million times. But Harry was the name of a friend from grade school, and like if you go to Edinburgh, you can walk around like the cemetery, and you'll see Tom Riddle's grave, and that's where she used to walk around the cemetery. Her children went to the school that was right there, so you'll see Tom Riddle, you'll see Moody, you'll see McGonagall, you'll see all these names that were from Harry Potter. So the fact that you took a name from a childhood thing is cool though. Did you tell them, or do you even still know them?
No, I didn't really even know the Bellhorns personally. The other sub characters were actually just random They were renames because originally when I had written On Green, I had actually ascribed it to a fan fiction. It was actually under a different name. It was originally written as a fan fiction of Midnight Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Midnight Club doesn't have a story. It's just an arcade racer. I decided to give it a story.
I think that's
initially, great. But then I'm like, and I'm sitting there writing it the whole time, and I'm like, why? I have an original story. Why am I ascribing this under a fan fiction? That's silly. So I went ahead, changed the name. The 3 sub characters that I had were originally from the game, and I erased their names and gave them a little bit, some like personality tweaks here and there, and just completely renamed them to my original names.
We're going to go to break, but when we get back, I want to ask about fan fiction because
Sure.
I don't have that much information on that. So I think that I would like to understand what that exactly means.
Definitely.
So everybody stay tuned. When we get back, we're going to have more BaaD Radio.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back, and this portion of BaaD Radio is brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore. Summer is here, and it is so hot out there, so it's a time to go to Premier Couple Superstore. So for some indoor activity, they have a huge selection of lingerie, shoes, toys, games, love oils, and a ton of great gifts. 5009 South OBT, or shop online at premiercouples.net. Because a couple that plays together stays together.
Oh, yeah.
That's my oh, yeah. It makes everybody giggle, Guy. I love it. It makes everybody, like, get the little red on their cheeks. Well, we're here with Dash, and he's an author, and he's also a graphic artist. And we're talking about his book. And before break, he brought up, not fandom. Was it fandom? No,
fan fiction.
Fan fiction.
Yeah.
Okay. And so On Green was originally meant to be fan fiction.
It was originally a Midnight Club fan fiction. I was
Okay.
just calling it Midnight Club, and I had this really stupid idea that I was going to like submit it when I had finished it to Take-Two Entertainment and be like, "Hey, I wrote a fan fiction based off your game.
Right.
Want to do anything with it?" And that's not realistically how that would work. So yeah, it was pointless.
I would have been nervous that they would have like tried to pirate it or something.
That too.
Yeah.
I was just being naive and silly. So
Not
I
at all.
Yeah, no, I was, but that's around the time when I was like, you know what, this is the story that I have come up with here is fully original. So let's just go ahead and change this name.
Right. So it can stand on its own.
Mhm.
You're not taking the characters from the game and putting their names or
Exactly.
their representation on there.
And
So-
legally, you can't even do anything with a fan fiction anyway, other than, like I said, you could submit it to the people who originally came up with the original source material. They may or may not do anything with it. I don't know.
So I mentioned that I've heard the word fandom, and then now you said fan fiction. So what exactly does that mean?
I think it's just one and the same. It's just it's fictionalized stories that people draw up from a source material, and they will create and put their own spin on it. That's really, and they may or may not use the characters from the original source material.
Right.
It's it's
No,
entirely.
I remember when Twilight came out, and these are just books that I've read, and there was a ton of stuff like that, and people just made it up. I'm like, what is this? Who wrote this? Is this what happened? And then they're like, nah, it's fandom. I was like, okay.
There's an author, I believe her name is S.D. Perry, and she's actually a professional fan fiction writer. Where I think she actually secures licenses to write. I don't.
Right.
I'm guessing this is how she does it. She secures licenses to the source material because she's written books from some of my favorite video games, Resident Evil.
Okay.
She's written so many like spin-offs of actual.
But she's gotten permission to do
But
so.
she has the permission to do it, so that's how she's built her. But her stories are great too. Like
Yeah.
seeing the way she put Resident Evil 2 into like a book, because I had played the game in 1998, and I'm seeing it and I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh man, I went through these scenarios. This is so cool. Like, and then she'll add just a little bit of like stuff that wasn't in the game just to make it interesting. Like, oh, that's cool.
Growing up, what kind of books did you like?
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it was, because I was such a nerd growing up, if it was based off a video game, I was definitely into it. Other than that, I really do like dystopia. I loved the dystopia.
See, I was a Star Trek reader. I
Yeah,
know
sci-fi,
that
yeah.
I know that sounds so bizarre.
No.
But I love Star Trek.
I definitely
books.
I definitely had my phases. Growing up when I was a kid, my biggest thing was Power Rangers. When Mighty Morphin Power Rangers hit the scene, I was brainwashed. You had to give me every toy, every action figure. I had to have it.
Right.
I still am a fan as an
Right.
adult, just a very casual
Right.
fan. But
Well, and then I went through a phase of not reading at all. And then, about 17 years ago, I picked up a book and I started reading, and then it, opened up the floodgates.
Yeah.
So I read some really dumb ones. Like, when I call Twilight, I'm going to call it dumb just because of it's when I say dumb, I have a lot of respect for Stephanie Meyer, the author, but in the world of, authors, it's not that great. But I've read a lot of amazing ones.
Yeah.
I've read some bunch of stuff on World War II. My quality of reading has definitely improved.
yeah.
So that was kind of your basis on that. So the next thing I'm really curious about is once you finished your book, how did you get it published?
So you're going to be presented with 3 major options when you go to publish.
Okay.
And this is where it gets really involved. And this is also going to depend on the author. You need to do your own research. I will go ahead and put that as a disclaimer. As an author, you want to do your own research. You want to figure out what your best path is, because the self-publishing path may be for you or it may not be for you. The traditional publishing path may be for you or it may not be for you. The third option I definitely don't recommend for really anybody, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
The traditional publishing it's a lot like being a celebrity. You have to find an agent. You can't just go up to any of these publishing houses, throw them your manuscript, and then expect them to do anything with it. They're going to ignore you. What you have to do is you actually have to find yourself a literary agent. There's resources if you Google it. There's lists out there with all kinds of agents out there.
You called it a literary
agent.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's just like it's like having a modeling agent or an acting agent. They're the ones who are going to, they have to like your work first. You run a risk kind of no matter if you go traditional publishing or there's risk involved with everything. But the literary agent has to see value, sellable value in your work.
Okay.
And then you submit that to them. And if they like your work, then they take that and they will pitch it to a big major publishing house.
Okay.
And then they'll get the ball rolling for you. Self-publishing is obviously the route I went with On Green.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Self-publishing, I went on Amazon, signed up for an account. Barnes & Noble, signed up for an account. Those are 2 of the avenues out there that are available for self-publishing. Kindle. You get on there, you create your account. It's free. You just all you have to do after that is on the back end, you upload your manuscript, your cover art, and their system basically puts the book together for you.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty handy. It's very basic, very easy to use. It's pretty user friendly. And then the Kindle Reader ebook, they actually Amazon has their own Kindle program.
Oh, I have a Kindle. I have 3 of them actually.
they have their own program that will format your manuscript into the e-reader format.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can download it, you can run it off your computer. It just you upload your file into it. It kind of reads it and then places it into like an ebook format, and you save it off. You upload it. It's super easy.
And then when people buy it, the money just comes straight to you.
Yeah, and then after that, once you have your account set up on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any one of these places, you set your profit margin and how much you want to make off your book, because they will have a base cost of what it costs them to print and ship.
Okay.
And then so they'll make their money there, and then anything on top of that is what you make.
Okay.
So you'll go on there, you'll set your profit margin, however much you want to make, and then that's it. And then marketing is up to you.
Right.
This is the major difference between traditional publishing and self-publishing. Traditional publishing, the publishing house will obviously put you on the shelves. They're the ones who take care of the distribution, putting you on the shelf at Barnes & Noble or any other bookstore. When you self-publish, you don't really have that luxury. And there's a reason why I was told when I went to Barnes & Noble why they couldn't, because I can sell online, but I can't sell on their shelves. And it's because my self-published item is non-refundable in their system. They can't create like a UPC or something so that if somebody didn't like it, they can't take it back.
Did they have to approve the text though before?
That's the thing with self-publishing. Anybody can publish anything.
Okay.
And that's kind of
a little scary.
It's kind of the bad thing about self-publishing, because you
Right.
have to wade through an ocean of garbage to find anything good. We are out there. I will say self-published authors are out there, but I can't tell you how many books I have scanned through where there's like grammatical errors.
That's what I'm
there's
thinking of. Did you have like a copywriter?
We're gonna get into my editor. We had there's books that have no editing. They're just ugly. It's kind of the Wild West with self-publishing. With traditional publishing, obviously they're gonna send your work to the ringer. They're gonna give you an editor. It's gonna get cleaned up, polished up.
Right.
When I went into self-publishing, I'm like, I got to take care of all that myself. So that's where my graphic design skills kind of came into play with the creation of the cover art.
Right. I want to get into all of that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the clock real quick too, because like I said, we're going to wrap up this
Absolutely.
thing. So when we get back, like I said, I want to talk about like who you had to help you put those pieces together to make sure that it reads right. And then the artwork. And I see that you have a hard and paperback.
Yep, paperback and hardcover.
All right. Well, we're going to run to break, and when we get back, we'll have more BaaD Radio. So stay tuned.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Frogger's Grill and Bar. Looking for a place to go with friends or meet new ones? Then you're looking for Frogger's Grill and Bar. And don't miss out on Frogger's amazing menu where everything is fresh, never frozen. With 4 great locations, there is bound to be one near you. Oviedo, Mount Dora, Apopka, and Altamont Springs. Frogger's, hopping with food and fun. Yeah, boy.
The black and gold wings are also really good.
Oh, my God. Actually, the black and gold is my family's favorite. To me, they're a little hot. I don't like a teriyaki. I'm a teriyaki person all the way.
Yeah, I like the black and gold because it's got that just little bit of sweetness, but it's also nice and garlicky and spicy.
It does have a good kick, but I'm sensitive to that. Like my husband and my kids like the spicy stuff. All right, so we are here with Dash, and he's an author and a graphic artist, and we've been talking about his book, and it's called Green On, right?
On Green.
On Green. And let's just give a little synopsis real quick. Go ahead and let's tell the listeners again what the book is about.
On Green centers around a man named Dustin Cameron, and he's a mechanic who is working and living in New York City. Now, he's from Florida originally. Dustin has to to make ends meet because life's really hard. He has to make ends meet by taking up a rideshare gig. So he basically starts working for the book's essential Uber. You know, I don't really call it Uber, but so he's doing rideshare, and he gets tied up with one of New York's richest men, Bob Bellhorn, and he has a harrowing encounter with Bob, which leads Dustin to get pulled into an underground street racing ring, and on a business deal with Bob. And it's through this that Bob's wife, Lydia, starts taking an interest in Dustin.
I think that this sounds great. I'm very, very interested. Is it so? It's fiction, but is it like an action kind of
based off anything? Yeah, there's a lot of. There's a fair amount of street racing action. It's a very character heavy book, so there's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of getting to know these people. I would say the street racing action doesn't really happen until later in the book, because again, there's a lot of build up. But I do try to keep things interesting with cars along the way.
Right.
So you're getting a little dose of the car action kind of as you go.
And are you in the seat of your main character?
Yeah, we are on his shoulder the whole time. We were watching everything happen through Dustin's perspective.
That's
and the sequel, I do break it up a little bit. We do kind of veer off and go into the perspectives of some of the other characters, but it's all sort of happening at the same time for the most part. There's a couple scenes where he's not present, but for the most part, Dustin's either present or the scene is involving him in some way.
Well, I think it's amazing that you're already starting a second book.
We're already done. It's already in the final stages of editing.
Really?
Yeah, this show came perfectly because probably by the end of the month, 2 is going to be out.
That is super, super exciting. Well, we'll definitely do posts on that to get the word out for that. Okay, so we were talking about copywriting. We were talking about the whole process of it getting published. And you gave us like the first option, which is finding
traditional publishing,
house.
literary agent, self-publishing, which is the route I went. The third one I didn't cover. This one I don't really recommend because it's going to be the most high risk.
Okay.
There are services out there that will publish you for a price, and it's a heavy price. It's like I did a little digging and I asked some questions, and we're talking $2,000-$3,000 to cough up for this. Now it's going to work essentially the same way as a trad publish. You're going to have to go to these companies. They have to first see a sellable value in your work,
right?
And if they accept you, then you pay them, and they will do the same thing as a traditional publisher, as well as offer some of the amenities of a self-publishing service too. But they'll cover the editing, the book cover artwork, the marketing for you, but it comes at the price. You shouldn't typically have to pay to publish. That should never be a thing. With self-publishing, you don't pay up front.
Right.
Traditional publishing, what you're paying comes later in the percentage that they take from you.
Right. In traditional publishing, you don't have to pay them anything?
You shouldn't have to. Usually how it works is when the literary agent finds you a publishing house, the publishing house takes you, they just make their money off of
your book sales? The book sales.
Okay. It's kind of like an act, like an actor. An agent would make their money off of them.
Right.
The company would get a cut of what's going on, and then the actor would get their portion of it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I work for a media agency, and like I said, lots of times is the reps will bring us proposals, and then we're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, and then we pitch it to our clients, and that's kind of that same thing. So we're like the mediator that's kind of in between that looks at the value, see if it makes sense,
Yeah.
and then finds a home for it.
Yeah, and with the hybrid publishing, because of that high risk and the high dollar value that you have to cough up front, it's just so much risk because if your book doesn't do good, you're out that money.
Mm-hmm.
You're out all that resource. If when I got onto self-publishing, I was like, okay. And I also didn't market my book at first to my family and friends because I didn't want the initial reaction coming from them. Not that I didn't want them reading the book. Of course, I want everybody to. But I didn't. They're familiar with me. I ended up getting on Twitter when I was first writing the book, and that's where I started marketing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got it out in front of a very general public audience.
What year did it come out?
2023.
It wasn't that long ago. Okay, yeah.
I wrote it in 22, and then it came out in 23. Yeah.
Man, you must have been like, when you're like, okay, I just finished it. You're like,
It took about 10 months.
wow.
Start to finish, and that's with included Barbara coming on to help me out at the end. She showed up at the end.
And who's this?
This is my editor, Barbara
Okay.
Couchman. Yeah,
Okay.
she's out in L.A.
So tell me how that relationship works.
We were actually friends on Twitter before she jumped in, and she ended up picking up a copy of my book and just ever so gently being like, "You need help." I'm like, "Okay."
That's
So-
what I'm worried about.
So the great thing about her, she can be honest with me, and I just roll with it.
I write the way I talk, and I'm like,
that's how I write too.
yeah. And so that's why I was thinking about like just recording things, ideas, and then maybe getting like a ghostwriter that can help put it down.
Yeah, I mean, there is the option of doing ghostwriting and whatnot, but I don't know. I wanted to do this from me. I wanted this to be my words, and if they're bad, if it's not, it doesn't sound right. Barbara's there to help me. Oh my goodness!
We knew that was going to happen.
I knew that was going to happen.
The book went down. We have a book down.
Yep. So I knew she was going, and she came along, and I knew that she was going to be a great help to me. So I just let her kind of do her thing, and she has her thumbprint has helped On Green become what it is today, and that is crucial. Is having a solid editor behind you.
Right. Was there any times where she was like, yeah, I'm making this recommendation. You're like, nope, I'm keeping it in there. I'm not making the change.
Very seldom.
Okay.
So she has full reins to come to me and say, hey, this isn't working. And because she came from the advertising world, she knows how to make things sound a little bit better.
Copywriting. Yeah, I do a lot of script writing.
So she not only knows punctuation and grammar, she just knows how to make something sound a little better. And I was like, okay, you're talented here. We're going to let you roll that. And anytime like a suggestion came up, I would just go and look at it. And if there was like an artistic merit to me having it that way, I would explain it, and then we would just move on and then clean up around it. There would be some grammar or punctuation out of place that we would have to clean
I want to
up.
know her. Will you introduce me?
I can give you her email.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, she's out in L.A. We met on Twitter, and we were friends before. So, she came along on towards the end of the first book.
Right.
Helped me really clean it up.
Right.
And then she loved the story so much that she stuck with me through the second book. And
That's
I've just
awesome.
been blessed to have her.
So you put it out on Twitter initially. That's how you. And
That's how I marketed it.
And so Twitter, any other social platforms?
I initially started on Twitter, and what's great about Twitter is because it's such a public forum of just nonstop screaming and chaos, and that's kind of you have to approach it like that. You have to approach it. I'm just going to start screaming that this book is out into the ether. Hope somebody takes advantage of it and jumps on it, and that's how it started.
Right.
I started getting it into the hands of my readers on Twitter, and they loved it.
Oh my God, I love that.
When I you can imagine how scared I was putting this out. Like, because
I would, like I said, I would be horrified. I'm going to be like, I'm going to get all these people that say they hate it, and it's going to crush me.
And that's a very real fear. Poured your soul out into it. Put it out in front of the public, and it's like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen next. But then I started getting the reviews and like the comments, like, this is amazing.
I want to look those up. So they're all on Twitter?
Yeah.
What's your handle on Twitter?
You can find me across the board on social media at insertdash.
Insertdash?
Yeah, all one word. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good information. We didn't talk about the cover yet, but we have to go to break.
Okay,
So
yeah.
when we get back, we're going to dedicate that to
Sure.
the graphics,
Yeah, we'll get into the
part of
graphics.
everything. So everybody stay tuned. When we get back, we're going to have more BaaD Radio.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Liberty Property Inspections. Your home is one of your most important investments, so don't trust it to just anyone. LibertyPropertyInspections.net, helping you protect your investment. I'd also like to thank these additional sponsors for making BaaD Radio a reality: Fear No Storm with boltslegal.com, Crazy Muscle Nutrition, Inbalance Bodywork, Forge IT Consulting, and Body Street in Winter Park. So I did my Body Street workout yesterday. I can barely walk today. I'm like, they use electromagnetic stimulation. It's kind of like a TENS unit, and they basically do it for 20 minutes straight as you do like a series of things. And,
Interesting.
And 20 minutes, you get like a whole week's worth of a workout. It's really hard, but it's only 20 minutes. And so, by the time you think you're going to die, it's over. And I can handle that.
I typically just go for a walk every morning, but I didn't get to do that this morning because Florida decided to be Florida.
I know, right? Rain. All right, so we're here with Dash, and he is author and graphic artist, and we've been talking about his book over here. I want you to hold. Can you hold it up?
Sure.
So he's got 2 different versions of it. It's called On Green, and so you have got they do that one there too. So we have cameras all over the place. So you have the paperback, and then you have the hardback. Now you're a graphic designer. You've designed these. Tell us about what went into that.
I did. So
can I see it actually?
Yeah. So that's the paperback and then the hardcover. And when I initially came up with the idea for the paperback artwork, I wanted something that was...
Was the paperback first?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, that came out first, and then later on, the Twitter demand came up for the hardcover. Now, the paperback was inspired just kind of by like 80s movie posters, I would say.
I love it.
A little bit of Christine thrown in there, I think. There was definitely some Christine... Stephen King's Christine in the cover.
Oh yeah,
art
no, I know what Christine is for sure. We have my husband loves old movie posters.
Oh, yeah.
We have Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back in our.
I definitely wanted covers that were eye grabbing. The second one, so the funny story about the hardback, I put that out just weeks before we got images from the Canadian wildfires in New York when the sky was red and New York looked just like my book.
Wow,
it was all shaded and.
That's a little scary.
Yeah.
That's
a
little weird.
A little weird. My book predicted it.
Little manifestation going on.
Yeah.
There?
So being a graphic designer, it was an opportunity just to showcase my work all across the board, both writing and the design and overall look. Barbara definitely helped me out in the interior. She showed me some formatting things that I'd never even considered. So the interior formatting, all that, was definitely a lot of her work coming through.
I like how you included on all the pages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the second book that gets the second book's going to be even more fun because I kind of take it into a little bit more of a design, like visual experience.
Are you allowed to tell us the name?
It's going to be On Green 2, Love and Speed.
Okay.
Yep.
That's like Love and Thunder. I'm a big Thor fan.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, Love and Speed, and the primary theme of the book is going to be love. But the cover art for the hard cover there, I just wanted something a little bit more, I guess.
I don't know. I think it's beautiful. I love the way it feels.
Not as wild. I wanted it sort of subdued a little more, just kind of modern.
Right. Well, like you said, this is very intense.
Yeah.
That that is intense, and that is a little bit more mild. But this is really cool. Like the feel of it's really cool.
Yeah. They print very, very quality books.
So you did this through Amazon.
Through Amazon.
Wow.
Yep. And Barnes and Noble will do the same thing. You'll get the same exact book. In the second book, I do the same thing. I have one. I have the soft cover is its own art, and then the hardcover carries the same formula where it's its own.
So you were saying that you were originally just going to do the soft cover, and then you just
demand came up for the hard.
So people were just like, "Hey, do you have this in a hardcover?"
Yeah, apparently, it's just personal preference. People were like, "Hey, do you have?" And the funny thing is, when I brought out the hardcover, that sold almost exclusively after the paperback. Like people were just buying the hardcover. They wanted that thick, chunky.
I have to admit,
experience of having that nice, solid book in their hand.
Like I said, I'm an avid reader. I have more books than I know what to do with, but my husband did get me a Kindle, and I've gone through 3 of them now. And at first I was like, I don't want this. I want my book. I want to be able to, I like going to bookstores. I like smelling the books.
Yeah.
I like thumbing through the books. I love looking at the artwork. I've bought books not knowing any idea what they're about, but the cover, just by the cover.
Yeah, well, design-wise, the cover's good. We're visual creatures. We have to be attracted to the design of it first before we're interested in what else it has to offer.
Yeah.
That's just how we operate.
Yeah, and so I would definitely, this would catch my attention.
And on the back, there's a new QR code too, and that takes you to there's more of a on-green experience when you scan the code too. You get taken to my Linktree, and on my Linktree, I currently have the links to the book, the merch store, which I'm currently wearing.
Oh
merch.
yes, I want to hear about your merch.
So the merch, it all comes with it. You know, it was an opportunity to design everything. So I wanted just to create the on-green world. So I opened up my merch store. It's all there on the QR code.
That's really smart.
Yeah, no, the whole world of On Green is at your fingertips when you scan the code, and you can also preview On Green 2 Love and Speed. There's a downloadable preview of the prologue.
Right. That's just so cool.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed.
Thank you.
Like I said, I love the whole thing. Look at that. You are so organized. You've got the merch and everything.
Yep.
So all the merch has different designs.
Yeah, you choose the design, and then down at the bottom, you pick the item that it goes on. And you can pick your garment color. It's fully customizable. Okay. And I just added shoes, too, which is a cool thing, because my wife just got a pair, and they're really nice.
This is so Miami Vice. Do you know which one I'm looking at?
Yeah,
the retro.
Yeah, it probably had some influence, too. I'm a big 80s baby.
Oh yeah. Well, I was born in '73, so that
I love all that retro stuff.
And this is so good. Well, I like the Cameron one too. So you guys are gonna have to check this out. Whenever we do the YouTube, what I'll do is I'll have this included on here, so that people can actually take it from the YouTube.
Awesome.
That's really, really cool.
And to find it too, I mean, you can literally just Google On Green by Dash. It should be the very first option that pops up. I don't actually have a website anymore, but I'm still very accessible just through social media. Just find me at insertdash all across the board. I'm not on TikTok, but everywhere else you can find me at insertdash, and in my bio I'll have a link to everything. It's all very easily accessible.
So this is what we talked about today, and like your background in graphic design has really helped you a lot in this.
Yeah.
Is that what you hang your hat on? Is the graphic design? I mean, do you have
that's where I came
to be a full-time author? I mean, it sounds like you're really good at it.
Yeah, no, I would love to carry the full-time author thing. I think they go in hand. I've cut my teeth being a graphic designer for years. The interest came to me in high school, kind of right around the time I was writing. I had written a little bit in high school, just real angsty teenage stuff, and then I put it down. And I didn't get back into writing until I wrote this. The graphic design is what I carried with at the end of high school into college. And then outside, I picked up some technical skills in college because I was actually studying photography. Photography was my bread or my heart and soul at that point. But I learned a little bit of graphic design, and then that's when it carried off into like my adult working life. Outside of college, my very first client was Bitters Bait and Tackle in Longwood. I redesigned their logo. I am a fisherman. I have a long history in the fishing world. So
that must have been a great account for you.
A lot of my clients come from the fishing world. Still, I'm still very involved in it.
That's really cool. So if people go through this and they're like, I really like this guy's style, they can still reach out to you. Do you freelance stuff?
Absolutely. They can get me, like I said, you can find me at insertdash all across the board. On social media, you can just come to me if you need graphic design work, or if you want to hire me for some writing. Let's talk about a writing project. You know, I'm kind of getting out there in that aspect too. So
very, very nice. Yeah. So we are coming towards the end of the show. So I know you've mentioned it, but tell everybody how to get in touch with you again. And like I said, then we're going to...
at insert-dash, all one word, INSERTDASH. That's going to be on Facebook, Instagram, X/Twitter.
Right.
Those are the three major social media platforms that I am currently active on. I'm very active on all of them.
Right.
So I'll respond very quickly.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. I loved it. And a huge thank you to our sponsors. And thank you for tuning in, and have a great week, everyone.